So how does Expert Labs work?
You know, at its most basic, what Expert Labs is about is helping policymakers make better decisions. And so, you know, that sounds like a lofty goal, but you look at our everyday lives, I can say, go on Twitter or Facebook, hey, I'm going to buy a new phone or a new pair of sneakers, what should I get? And I'll get back really good, educated answers really quickly. The way Expert Labs works is to bring that power to the people making policy in Washington, D.C., and hopefully everywhere else. And the way we do it is we're building a really smart set of tools. We have an open source platform called ThinkUp that has been just really popular with developers and with users, and anybody and any business or personal use can hook it up to their Twitter and Facebook accounts, ask questions, have conversations, and then get insights from doing that. That power, that simple power of what we do, you know, day to day on social networks, being able to be used by folks that are making policy that impacts our lives is the core of what Expert Labs is designed to enable.
So do you think Gov 2.0 requires a top-down federal mandate, or is it primarily a grassroots movement?
If it were a top-down mandate, it wouldn't happen. And the reason I say that is, you know, in this sort of abstract sense, I believe in of the people, you know. But in the practical sense, one of the biggest challenges with reforming any part of government is whether people believe they can change it and believe that it's in their hands to do so. And so by necessity, Gov 2, in order to succeed with the mission of making government more transparent, more open, more responsive, more nimble, all those, you know, great positive attributes, has to be something where we each personally feel like there's something we can do to make that function happen. And I think the great thing is that's a common goal regardless of where people are on the political spectrum, where they are in terms of feelings on particular policy. Everybody agrees that that's a goal that we want to accomplish.
Now, government organizations have tapped crowdsourcing for things like app contests, but are we past that now, or do we need to iterate into something else?
Yeah, I think that we've reached the ceiling of what app contests can do. You sort of say, you know, that they're based on a if you build it, they will come, you know, premise. And the reality is we haven't seen a lot of unequivocal examples of, well, we had an app contest and that app changed the way that this agency works. It's more of, you know, they've gotten a lot of deserved recognition for doing something cool and innovative, but it hasn't been about remaking whether, you know, an agency is fundamentally efficient and effective and responsive. And so there needs to be something deeper about the functioning of these agencies, and I think that's why I'm loving the Expert Labs mission of connecting to policy, because you know, we talk a lot about legislators and these grand laws that they write, but the things that impact our everyday lives are these little, you know, small decisions made by policymakers. And so, you know, to really get the potential of this, we have to get out of the did you build an app and do you have an API and get into, well, you know, this agency impacts my business, impacts my life, and if they would be able to be responsive in the way that, you know, I take for granted online when I, you know, whatever I can do online banking, I can do, even though my bank is still a giant monolithic institution, I have a nimble way of interacting with them. Right. The same should be true for our agencies.
Interesting. So shifting gears a little bit, I had a couple questions about your blog. So you've been doing it since '99, is that right?
Yeah, almost 11 years.
And you've been doing it consistently since '99.
I've been trying.
How have you avoided burnout?
By being a loudmouth, you know. I think you could look at, you know, my mother would tell you when I was 3 years old she couldn't shut me up. So I think some part of it is just I'm obnoxious by nature. But, you know, if I'm being a little kinder to myself, the tech industry and culture at large haven't stopped being interesting. You know, the impact that the choices that developers and technologists make have on society as a whole has only gotten larger. So, you know, I thought, oh, tech is really changing the world in, you know, 1999 and 2000. It's nothing compared to what it does today. And so I've never had a shortage of, you know, what I feel like, it took me almost maybe more than 8 years before I said what my site was about, because I didn't really know. And what I kind of settled on is my site is about making culture. My blog is about making culture. And what I realized is that's what everyone in the tech industry does. We influence how, you know, music is made and distributed, how magazines are made and distributed, how, you know, politics happens. And those things we don't always think about. We think we're making a new button, a new gizmo, a new feature, a new gadget. But we're actually impacting the way people live and communicate and raise their families and connect with one another. And so that's infinitely fertile ground.
Sure.
You know, that is the intersection of art and culture and society. Like if you can find a bottom to that well, then more power to you. But I don't think there is one.
So last question I have for you. Do you use the blog as a way to sort of incubate ideas, workshop ideas, and then it manifests elsewhere? Is that how it connects to your other work?
Absolutely. Everybody has walked into a conference like Web2 or anything else and come away inspired by the conversation. And this is my way of being able to do that every day. I'm incredibly privileged and fortunate. I can put a post up on my blog and some number of people who are smart and thoughtful will take it seriously and respond. That's unbelievable. That's the greatest thing in the world, And so I think that I take for granted. As I said, if I ask a question on Twitter and say, what pair of sneakers should I buy, I'll get a good answer. But if I spend invest an hour in writing a couple hundred words about here's a really interesting challenge that we face as an industry, as a society, as a culture, sometimes I get the person that I'm writing about to respond. I can write something about Twitter and get somebody that works at Twitter to respond, or write something about government and get somebody that makes policy to respond. That's still a thrill.
Yeah.
And it also kicks off really meaningful conversations. I think that's all you can hope for. That was the promise we had when we all first discovered the web, that someday it was going to bring us all together and we're going to be able to have these conversations. And it's not perfect, it's not it's not ideal, but in some small way, here's somebody like me with no portfolio. I didn't go to an Ivy League school. I didn't have any fancy social connections when I started my blog. It has opened the door to me having a conversation as a peer, as somebody taken seriously, in realms that I would never otherwise have had access to, and that's the greatest privilege in the world.
Well, thank you very much for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.